All right, perfect. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you all for being here this evening. I am super excited to chat with you all about how to find preceptors as you prepare for applying to distance programs, whether that's BWSDI or you're planning on applying to another program. I know that finding preceptors and putting together your own rotation schedule can be one of the most daunting parts of applying to distance programs. So that's why we decided to put this event on so that you could have the support that you need to either get started with finding preceptors or just with continuing to find preceptors if you've already started that process. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Bree Tobert-Sulfer, and I am the marketing manager and a faculty advisor for BWSDI. So this is just an overview of what we will be going over this evening. I'm going to start by just going over the basics of our program, and then we will go into detail about some rotation schedule tips, information about site selection, and what our guidelines are for internship rotations. And I will also talk about how BWSDI provides support for interns with putting together their rotation schedules. And then we will have time for question and answer at the end. All right, so into an overview of our program. So BWSDI is a fully accredited distance dietetic internship program. We are an 8-month program, and we do participate in both the fall and the spring match. We are accredited to accept up to 60 interns a year. So our classes have between like 20 and 25 interns in them typically. And we are a full-time program, and our area of concentration is corporate wellness and disease prevention. And where that concentration comes from is the fact that we are owned by Be Well Solutions, which is a corporate wellness company based out of Cleveland, Ohio. So the internship was started in 2017. The company has always had dietitians on staff, and they really value the work of registered dietitians and decided that they wanted to play a role in developing dietitians who were focused in the corporate wellness area. So that's kind of where the internship stemmed from. So this is an overview of the rotations required by BWSDI. So clinical, food service, and community, those are kind of the 3 core rotations that are required by, I believe, all internship programs. And then we do also have a required wellness rotation, which is a part of that corporate wellness concentration that I mentioned. That is one of our main rotations. It requires 320 hours, so the same amount of hours as what the clinical rotation requires. And then we do also have 160 hours that can be allocated toward an optional emphasis rotation, where interns have the opportunity to complete a rotation in an area that is of specific interest to them, or if they decide not to do an emphasis rotation, then they can allocate those 160 hours toward flex hours, where those hours are put toward one of the other rotations above. And then the total supervised practice hours is ends up being 1,040 at the end. I am hearing a little bit of background noise, so if everybody could please mute themselves, that would be wonderful. And I apologize for my my barking dog in the background. So this slide just provides an overview of our rotations just in kind of another format. So you'll see the 5 rotation option listed here with that emphasis rotation included. And then the 4 rotation option is with the 160 flex hours instead of the emphasis rotation. No matter what interns choose to pursue for this, they both take 8 months long and 1,040 supervised practice hours. All right, so now we're going to dive into the rotation schedule tips and details. But before I go into that, I just want to acknowledge that, finding preceptors can be time consuming. It is time consuming, but it is an experience that will pay off in the long run. Even if you get declines from potential preceptors, this is a chance for you to make professional connections who might be able to connect you with someone else, or who can provide you a rotation or offer you a job in the future. It's also a really great way for you to step outside your comfort zone and work on communication skills and other skills that will really benefit you as you move forward into your internship. So we just always try to have interns or students shift their mindset, because we know it can be super overwhelming. But if you look at it as a learning opportunity, hopefully that will make it a little bit easier. And, the magic of going through a distance program is the fact that you get to tailor your experience to what you want. So hopefully knowing that will make the process a little bit easier for you to get through. So the first tip that we always emphasize to students with putting together rotation schedules is to start early. Like I mentioned before, the process can be time consuming, and you just never know how long that it is going to take you to get a response from the potential preceptors that you're reaching out to. It could just take a while, depending on what is going on within their particular organization. So if you are planning to apply to BWSDI in the fall match, we do suggest that you should have already gotten started on putting together your rotation schedule. If you haven't already, then now would be the time that you would want to start with reaching out to potential preceptors and putting that rotation schedule together. And as you're getting started, you really want to use your connections. And this goes so far beyond your work supervisors, but also connecting with your family, your friends, your DPD professors, people who you've worked with or volunteered with. You just never know who might know somebody who works in the health profession, who might know a dietitian or somebody else who will be able to be a preceptor for you. So just really try to think through all the connections you have and think outside the box for who you could network with to find potential opportunities. While you are thinking about connecting with individuals who may be able to be preceptors, we recommend that you use professional platforms and social media like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. As you all are likely aware, there are many dietitians out there who are using Instagram and other social media platforms in a professional way. And so just sending them a quick message on there to see if they can be a preceptor is a really good way to get started. Of course, you're probably not going to be able to discuss all of the details about your rotations on Instagram, but that's just a good way to kind of get the process started. And then you can take it to the next step by just getting their email address that way. And then just to emphasize LinkedIn will be your best friend as you are putting together your rotation schedules. And it's just a great thing to get set up with now, because you will find that you'll probably want to utilize that a lot throughout your internship as well. And as you, once you complete your internship and are starting to look for jobs, it is just a really, really fantastic resource to find dietitians that are in your specific area where you live, or dietitians who are in a specific niche that you want to go into as well. Going off of that, academy resources are really good to utilize too. So they do have what's called the Find a Preceptor database available on their website. And through that database, you can search for individuals who have like already indicated that they are available to be preceptors. You can filter it by your location and by the rotation that you're specifically looking for. And that's a really great way to find contact information for preceptors. And then more academy resources. So DPG groups, so dietetic practice groups, if you are a member of the academy, those are really great ways to get in contact with dietitians who, are working in a specific area. There are dietetic practice groups that are focused on so many different topics. There's ones on diabetes, public health, nutrition communication. So getting involved in those and just really using your connections through those can be a great way to find preceptors. And then lastly, local academy chapters. So I believe that most states have academy chapters, and you can find their contact information usually on their websites. So for example, I'm in Minnesota. My academy chapter is called the Minnesota Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So if you just simply search that, you'll be able to find the email address for them. And a lot of times they'll be able to, connect you. Say you're looking for a clinical dietitian in the state where you live, they'll be able to connect you with individuals who are in that specific practice area. And then Facebook groups. So those are another really, really good way to find preceptors. Many of you may already be in some of these Facebook groups, and those listed here these are just a few. There are tons and tons of these private groups out there that students and interns can go into to post on discussion boards if they're looking for a preceptor for a specific rotation. So the registered dietitians and future RDs community, build up dietitians, and the unconventional RD community are just a few that I specifically know of. If you know of any others, feel free to drop them in the chat for other people to look into. But yeah, we highly suggest taking advantage of those as well. All right, so now I just want to emphasize the importance of details when you are reaching out to potential future preceptors. When you're emailing them or when you're calling them, you really want to make sure to provide as many details as you possibly can, because they will be more likely to respond, and they'll be more likely to give you a set yes or no answer when they know all of the information that they need in order to, make a decision. You need to remember that some dietitians that you're reaching out to, some of them may have never been preceptors before, or they might not be familiar with how distance programs work. And so that just kind of is why we recommend that you provide as many details as possible. Before you start reaching out to preceptors, we do suggest that you use a template email for each rotation type. So one for clinical, one for food service, one for community, and so on. And within those templates, you'll want to include tentative, the dates that you're looking at for the rotation, the number of hours that you're looking for, and you'll also want to include your resume in those emails as well, just so that they can look. A lot of them will just want to know what types of experiences that you've had before they're able to give a set answer. So that's why it's good to include that resume. Within the emails, it is a good idea to offer to schedule a meeting with them, whether it's a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting, just so that they can, once again, get to know you, ask questions about your experience, and just learn firsthand exactly what you are looking for in an internship rotation. And then I'm just going to use this as a chance to plug the email template that we are providing by BWSDI. We do have one that we've already put together for potential applicants. So if that is something that you are interested in using, please send an email to us after this presentation. Let us know that you want it, and we will happily send that over to you. Our email address is bwsdi@bewellsolutions.com, and there is a slide at the end of this presentation that provides that email as well. So, and then at the end, I can also put it in the chat, so you'll have it. And then, so as you are sending out emails to future preceptors, we highly recommend that you stay as organized as possible, because you're going to be reaching out to a lot of people. You're going to be needing to follow up with a lot of people. And so Excel, Google Sheets, whatever works best for you, just use something to track your outreach. So track the days that you're sending an initial email, track the days that you want to follow up, and anything else that you want to track, just to keep yourself as organized as you possibly can. And then, so major rotations. One huge tip that we have is to start with confirming the rotations with the greatest number of hours first, which is clinical and wellness. Obviously, it's not always going to be possible for you to confirm those rotations first, but if you can, that is a really great idea, just because those ones can be a little more challenging to secure, and just because they are the longest rotations, it can get easier then for you to schedule in some of your shorter rotations after you have those confirmed. And then, so following up, if you don't hear back from a site within about a week of your initial outreach, then we recommend that you send a follow-up email. People are really busy and inboxes can get super full. And so sometimes they just need that quick reminder, bring it to the top of their inbox, and they will be more likely to respond. And then that is, once again, that something that you will want to track in whatever system that you end up using, whether it's Excel or Google Sheets. Okay, so internship contracts. So if you are interested in a site that is contracted with another internship program, don't let that discourage you. Depending on their contract, some of the facilities are able to have agreements with more than one internship. So we hear this a lot with some of the bigger internship programs that are out there. A lot of them are like already affiliated with certain hospitals and other places. So if you're already aware of a place that's like that, just once again, don't let that hold you back from still trying to reach out to them and seeing if there is potential that they could take you on in addition to the interns that they already have. And then virtual rotations. So we do approve these on a case-by-case basis, and they're more likely to be approved if the preceptor's primary work responsibilities can be done in a virtual format. So think like private practice dietitians who are meeting with their clients in a virtual format, those would be approved. That would most likely be something that would be approved for an emphasis rotation. Note that for those core rotations, the clinical and wellness rotations, over 50% of those must be in person. So that is something to keep in mind as you are starting your outreach. And then, so use declines to your advantage. You will most likely get declines. That is really just part of the process, but don't get discouraged by that. Try to turn that negative into a positive by just asking the individual if they have other connections who may be able to be a preceptor for you. Going back to what I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, just trying to take advantage of that connection still and seeing what else that they might be able to offer you, even if they're not able to take you for a rotation. And so searching for sites in a large radius, we do recommend this if you are able. If you limit yourself to a really small area, you will most likely have a more difficult time finding sites just because there's simply fewer sites to choose from. So try to, once you are matched to a program, just take a look at, figure out like exactly how far out that you are able to commute, and then search for your sites based on that. Also keep in mind that you are able, when you're in a distance program, you're able to travel for rotation. So some interns do prefer to do that. So if you have, say you have a family who live in a town that's a couple hours away, that could be a potential option for you to, find rotations in that area if you're able to live with family or something like that. So these resources listed here, note that I'll send these slides out to all of you so that you can have these links. I know they're kind of long, so you might not be able to write them all down right now. But all of these websites are really fantastic resources. They are essentially kind of like finders. You can search, their search tools. So if you're looking for hospitals or nursing homes in a given area, you can filter them by that, and it will give you a whole bunch of different options. And then you can go to their websites and find their contact information and then do your outreach that way. This can just be a really good way to find hospitals aside from just using Google. I know sometimes Google it's not always the best option for finding hospital and nursing home locations. So these websites can be really awesome tools for clinical sites specifically. All right, so on these next few slides, I just have options for sites listed out, and these are actually all from our website, and I'm not going to read them all word for word, but as you can see here, there are many different options for sites for clinical rotations. So community hospitals, medical centers, long-term care facilities, rehab facilities, pediatric hospitals, primary care outpatient clinics, and federally qualified health centers. Those are all really great options for clinical. And then just to note that for clinical, you can split the rotation into 2 rotations if that is going to offer a better learning experience than being at a site for all 320 hours. So we do recommend that interns get at least some experience in some sort of an inpatient setting like a community hospital, but you can do partial experiences at like bariatric clinics, dialysis centers, and other types of facilities that are listed here. So just keep that in mind as you are thinking through who to reach out to for clinical sites. And then these are all potential site options for the wellness rotation. So the main suggestion for wellness rotations is corporate wellness companies, but we know that not every city or not every town is going to have a corporate wellness company for interns to complete that at. So in that case, there are just so many other options. Really, any organization that has a wellness program for employees is going to be a good site for a wellness rotation. And then moving into community and food service. So for community, as you'll see here, there's so many different options from WIC to public health departments to SNAP, food banks, grocery stores, YMCAs, Head Start programs, Meals on Wheels. The possibilities are truly endless with community. And then food service here, really anywhere that is serving food is going to be an option for that. So school food service, hospitals, long-term care facilities, college, university, dining services, and so on. These can all be fantastic options for food service rotation. And then emphasis. So I just said this before with community. I said that the possibilities are endless for community. The possibilities are endless for the emphasis rotation as well, just because this is an area where you are choosing where you want to focus. So listed here are just some kind of popular options for the emphasis rotation, but just note that it's not limited to these options. Private practice, sports nutrition, eating disorders, nutrition communications, public policy, those are all potential options for that rotation. And then on this slide, I've just included some logos for some of the sites that have taken interns from us in the past. I just thought that this would be fun to include, just to maybe get some inspiration going. As you will see here, we do have the Be Well Solutions logo on here, because if you're located in Ohio, you are able to do a rotation with a wellness rotation with Be Well Solutions. So just wanted to make note of that. All right, so this slide, we are just gonna go over making cold calls, because email is probably going to be the main format that you're going to be reaching out to preceptors through, but making phone calls is also another really fantastic way to get in touch with preceptors. And it can be daunting to make cold calls, especially when you aren't entirely sure, like if you're going to be connected with the right person. But just remember that some preceptors are going to be easier to get a hold of over the phone. And when you're making cold calls, patience is super important, because you might be bounced around to various departments before being connected with the right person. That's pretty typical with clinical sites, because sometimes they'll start you out with the food service department, and then they'll transfer you to the clinical dietitians, and you just can get bounced around. So be patient. And then just like you're likely using a template for email outreach, we do suggest that you use a script for both making phone calls and leaving voicemails. And of course, be professional with those. That can just make it a lot easier for you to make those calls when you have a script in front of you and you know exactly what you want to say. And then when reaching out to larger hospitals, note that sometimes the volunteer or student services department is the best place to start. So oftentimes those departments are the ones that handle the scheduling of students, including dietetic interns. And then I mentioned this a little bit ago, but just again to reiterate that you might end up getting connected with the food services department. You might actually have better luck with asking for the food service director, because they'll know how to get you in touch with the clinical nutrition team. Okay, so into some rotation schedule details. So these are just kind of like the requirements that we have as a program for rotation schedules. We do ask that you have your rotation schedule as complete as possible before applying. We understand if it's not 100% complete, but we do need to see that you have made an effort in putting together a schedule before applying to our distance program. Note that the same site can be used for more than one rotation. So an example of this is hospitals. A lot of times they can accommodate interns for both clinical and food service experiences. And your rotations do not need to be scheduled in a particular order. So this is a common question that we get because people are wondering, do I have to do my clinical rotation first? Do I have to do it last? And the answer to that is you can truly do your rotations in whatever schedule works best for you and the preceptors. When you are applying and using our rotation schedule template, we do ask that you list them in chronological order just so that we can see how your schedule is laid out. A minimum of 2 weeks is required at any site. And that is just because any less than that, it's probably not going to be a worthwhile experience. And it is kind of a lot of paperwork for you to have to put together for a rotation that is less than 2 weeks long. We prefer that every rotation is completed at the same site, but like I was talking about earlier, in particular with the clinical rotation, sometimes more than one site is used to get the best experience. Splitting, if you do end up splitting your rotations, those will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And then because the food service rotation is only 80 hours long, that one cannot be split. So just keep that in mind. Your clinical preceptors must be registered dietitians. But that is actually the only rotation that we require that registered dietitians are the preceptors. We found that other individuals with other backgrounds make great preceptors. For example, food services directors often don't have their RDs. Sometimes they do, but they often have a lot of experience in that area and can be really, really awesome preceptors for that rotation. And then community is another common one where we see preceptors who are not dietitians. So just keep that in mind as well as you're doing your outreach. And I kind of already talked about this, but you can travel for your rotations if desired. That is just the beauty of a distance program, is just the flexibility involved. And if you're able, we have found that interns do like to take advantage of that flexibility just to complete rotations in a variety of locations. And moving into the other ways that we are able to support you as you are putting together your rotation schedules. So number one, I know many of you have probably done this already, but we do recommend that you visit our website, bwsdi.com. That has a whole bunch of information, answers to frequently asked questions. There is a helpful resources section on the website as well that has all of the ideas that I talked about before for suitable types of facilities for each rotation. So that's really good for you to reference that and just get all of the information that you need in order to apply. You can also send us an email. So here's our email address. If you're unsure about a rotation site, when you do reach out with questions about a rotation site, we do ask you for as many details as possible, including the site name, the website link, and the desired rotation site. And then we'll review it and kind of just let you know if it will be appropriate. What we can also do is send you a list of learning competencies that are assigned to that rotation. And that way you can send that to your preceptor, they can review it and confirm whether their location will be able to fulfill each competency. Note that we do reserve preceptor contact information and specific assistance with finding sites for interns who have already been accepted to our program. But we are more than happy to provide individualized tips and resources on how to find preceptors. So if you are really struggling, if you're struggling with a particular rotation, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we will provide you with as much support as we possibly can. And lastly, our alumni network. So we have a very active network of alumni who would love to meet with you to provide you with advice on finding preceptors. And we can even go as far as finding one of our alumni who are in your specific location. So that they can kind of let you know where they specifically did their rotations, and that might help you to get some ideas for where to complete yours. And this is your time to shine. So finding preceptors is really a time for you to sell yourself. Do not hold back from sharing your experience and accomplishments with potential preceptors. Once again, we know how overwhelming that it can be, but you have made it this far, and this is really your time to be able to show off all of the wonderful experiences and skills that you have gained during undergrad. As mentioned before, finding preceptors is an experience that is going to pay off for you in the long run. And you know what, I just realized that this is a repetition from earlier, so I'm not going to go through all of this, but once again, the magic of going through a distance program is that you get to tailor your experience to what you want. Sorry about that repetition. And then, so we've reached the end of the presentation. So on this slide, I have all of our social media accounts listed. We are very active on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So suggest that you give us a follow there. If you're on those platforms, we share all kinds of other information about our program there. So yeah, feel free to follow along. And then we do have an email list too that you can sign up for on the homepage of our website at bwsdi.com. So feel free to head over there after this and get signed up for that. And then we do have some upcoming open houses that will be an opportunity for you to meet more of our faculty and are just kind of a deeper dive into all of the details and logistics of our program. So tonight I gave you a very brief overview of our program at the beginning, but that really just scratched the surface for what we have to offer. So if you are interested, definitely sign up for one of these that are taking place in August and September. The information about those and registration links are on the homepage of our website. And then lastly, all of our email addresses are listed here. Once again, the BWSDI email is here, so make sure to write that down. And my email is here as well. And then our program director, Katie, and associate director, Tristan, are also listed here. All right, so I am going to stop sharing my screen so that we can open it up for questions. Let's see if there's been anything in the chat. Does anyone have any questions about the presentation, anything we went over during the presentation, or just about our program in general?
I have a question.
Yes, Crystal, go ahead.
Thank you. So what do we need from our preceptors exactly for them to, let's say someone says, yes, I approve and I want to work with you for your dietetic internship. Is there a form that they need to sign? Is there some kind of confirmation? How do we do that professional shaking of virtual hands agreement that says you're going to be my future preceptor?
Yes, that is a great question. So Once you have confirmed a preceptor, if it's before you've actually applied to our program, there's not actually anything that they need to sign. All that you need to do is get their contact information and put that information into the rotation schedule spreadsheet that you'll be submitting with your application. Once accepted into our program, that is when all of the paperwork starts. So at that point, that is when we would begin reaching out to all confirmed preceptors and putting together our affiliation agreements that they'll need to sign. And we have a couple of other like agreements that they'll need to sign just to kind of verify that, yes, they are going to be a preceptor, and just to make sure we have a contract with their facility as well. But there is truly not anything that they have to sign to begin with. Sometimes they will, like preceptors will ask for like a copy of the affiliation agreement or some of the other paperwork before being accepted into the program. And in that case, just let us know and we would be happy to provide you with the paperwork to give them. So.
Okay, and I have one more thing to go with that. You said that there is going to be a form that is being submitted as a part of the application process. Is that a form? Where do I find that form exactly? Because I'm not at that stage just yet.
Yes, yep. So that form is on our website. Oops. Sorry, I was just going to go to our website, but my computer just is doing something weird. I am just looking up to see the specific section of the website that it's on. Okay, so if you go to our website, bwsdi.com, and then in the menu, there is a tab called supplemental application. And then on that page, you will see a link to proposed rotation schedule template, and then you'll download that, and that's what you'll use.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I also have a question.
Yes, of course.
So for the clinic or the community or the food service rotation where the preceptor most likely would not be a registered dietitian, does the preceptor need any other specific qualifications, or like can anyone be your preceptor?
Yeah, that is another really good question. So I don't want to say that like anyone can be your preceptor, because that is not necessarily true. But a lot of people in those specific areas, like if they are, once again, if they're a food services director or if they're some sort of a public health professional, they do likely have adequate experience to be able to meet your competencies. With that being said, so for any preceptors that you come across who are not dietitians, or if you're just kind of unsure about if they'll be appropriate for being a preceptor, you can just share that, send us an email, share with us who the preceptor is, maybe a little bit about their background and any other credentials that they have, just so that we can, provide our best recommendation as far as if they will, they'll work for being a preceptor. Yeah, I mean, I think that's my best answer to that question, is just that we'll kind of review those on a case-by-case basis, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Let's see, there are a couple of questions in the chat that I'm going to answer quickly. So you have someone in mind who is in nutritional cardiac rehab. What rotation would that go under? That would most likely fit under clinical, but we would see it as more of a partial clinical rotation, since that's most likely in an outpatient sort of a setting. So you would do some of your hours with them and then find a different inpatient or acute care setting for the rest of your hours. That could also, I mean, really anything can work for emphasis, but that could also work for an emphasis rotation. And let's see, there's a question about if I'll be emailing you all this presentation, and yes, I will be emailing you all the slides. That is correct. And then let's see, what is the time frame in which all the rotations must be complete? So if you are applying through the fall match, the time frame can be found on our website under the important dates tab. And let's see, the time frame is, so the earliest date to begin rotations is February 20th of 2023, and then the expected completion of internship rotations is October 13th of 2023. So as you are reaching out to preceptors, that will be the time frame that you will want to keep in mind as you're getting those scheduled.
If we are wanting to switch, not switch, but if we're wanting to split our clinical rotation, say between inpatient hospital setting and bariatric clinic, what would be the recommended number of hours per each? How would you recommend that we split that?
Ooh, yeah, that is a great question. So I would say the best way to split it is you would probably want to do at least half of your hours in the inpatient setting, if possible. But that's really like partial rotations are really something that we review on a case-by-case basis, and it's really going to depend on the availability of the preceptors too. So if the inpatient setting comes back and says like, we can't take you for it would be about 160 hours, they can't take you for that, then we could reassess. But that's kind of like my best suggestion, is to do at least half in inpatient. Does that help?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Let's see. Any other questions? Don't see any others coming through in the chat.
I just wanted to be clear on something for the clinical rotation.
Mhm.
So anything that would be qualified as outpatient is not the full clinical hours. That would just be partial.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I have another question.
Yep, go ahead.
So this is to our elective rotation. I just wanted to confirm we can use a private practice dietitian for that. For example, an eating disorder dietitian who has a private practice for that elective rotation.
Yes, absolutely. Private practice is probably one of the most common areas that we have interns complete their emphasis rotation through, and that is once again appropriate for a virtual rotation too, if the majority of that dietitian's work is done in a virtual format.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Great.
I had a question about the wellness rotation.
Yep. Go ahead.
Like you were mentioning that companies with wellness is a big way to get that. So I'm just trying to clarify what you mean by that. Like, for example, the company I currently work for has a wellness committee. Would that be something acceptable to work towards? Like maybe not the company I work for, but maybe something larger? Is that what we're talking about? Or what would that be more specifically?
Yeah, yep. So it sounds like that would work. You know, any company or organization that has a wellness or a nutrition program for tailored toward their employees is going to work for that wellness rotation.
Okay, so like just for the company I work for is kind of medium sized. I could probably get them to work with me for like 80 hours on that. Would that be like one way towards getting that? Or do I need it to be like all one company? Because I'm not sure they have that much, like 320 hours worth of.
Yeah, yep, that's a great question. So the wellness rotation is another one that can be split if doing the rotation at more than one location is still going to provide you with an adequate experience. So, if you find one site that's only able to take you for a couple of weeks, that's perfectly fine, as long as you're able to find, another site that can help you meet the rest of the competencies that you weren't able to meet at the first site, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Would a health department, we have a pretty large county health department that has a dietitian whose specific role is worksite wellness for all of the different companies in our county. That would work for wellness?
Yes, absolutely. That sounds like a fantastic experience for wellness. We have had lots of interns do wellness rotations through health departments too. So, and that could be something where, because health departments will work for community too. So you could, look into doing 2 rotations at the same site in that case.
Okay.
And just going off of wellness too, a lot of times companies don't know that they need a wellness program until they hear about what a wellness program is. So we have had this happen in the past where interns will reach out to a site thinking that it's going to be for their like community rotation or the food service rotation or whatever, but then they end up doing their wellness rotation there because as an intern, as a dietetic intern, they're able to like implement a wellness program for them, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind too. Like, just because a company doesn't have a blatant like wellness program available, that doesn't mean that they can't ever have one. Like, they could have a dietetic intern help them like conduct the research to just get one started or whatever. So that's just something that can help open the doors for more opportunities with that rotation as well.
Very cool. Thank you.
Mhm. All right. Anything else? All right. Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for being here this evening. I hope that you were able to learn a lot, and hopefully this answered a lot of your questions. I will just want to mention one more time that we do have a Finding Preceptors email template that we're providing to potential applicants. So if that is something that you would like to have as you start this process, just send us an email. I am dropping our email in the chat. I know I mentioned it probably a million times during the presentation, but I'm going to throw it here again. And yeah, just let us know that you're interested in that template, and we'll send that over to you. And we are available to answer any other questions that come up, and we'll hopefully be seeing you again at our upcoming open houses. So have a wonderful evening, everybody.